Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with a look at the movie and streaming release schedule for the rest of the year. That's right, the summer box office season is behind us. We are now looking at awards season, the fall movies, the winter movies, the holiday movies, everything you can name for the rest of 2025. So I've compiled a list of what I think are the biggest releases to put on your calendar. Now, as always, I think this is a thorough list, but not a comprehensive list. I didn't include everything, so there might be a couple things you were looking for that I didn't include, although there's a lot on here. And as always, even though I've done my best to be accurate with these release dates, they are always subject to change. And don't worry about taking notes as we go, because when we get to the end of this list, I'm going to give a full rundown of the calendar, including the movies that'll be hitting limited release, followed by debuts on Netflix. The Conjuring Last Rites is already kicking off the fall box office season with a bang. We're going to be covering its massive opening on Charts with Dan later this week. But let's jump ahead a little bit to Friday, September 12th, and the release of Downton Abbey, the grand finale. That's right, the show that premiered in the UK back in 2010 will be saying goodbye 15 years later with one last movie. Also opening on September 12th is The Long Walk, which is a Stephen King adaptation from director Francis Lawrence. It's about a group of 100 people who are offered the chance to win anything they want as long as they can keep walking nonstop at a pace of 3 miles per hour. Last man standing wins, everyone else dies. In a bit of a different genre, we have Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. 41 years after This Is Spinal Tap, documentarian Marty DeBurgi, who's played once again by Rob Reiner, covers the band's reunion for one final concert. Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer reprise their roles, and Rob Reiner is directing and also co-wrote the screenplay with the film's main trio. And finally, I'm excited about this one. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is hitting theaters. The second theatrical Demon Slayer film picks up where the Hashira training arc left off, with Tanjiro and his team doing battle on the Demon's turf. The first movie, Demon Slayer Mugen Train, was the highest grossing film worldwide in the pandemic year of 2020 with nearly $470 million. And this one is well on its way to matching that gross. On September 19th, we get A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, which is the latest film from South Korean director Kogonada. He reunites with Colin Farrell, who was his lead actor in After Yang, who goes on a journey through the past with Margot Robbie. I've got to be honest, both trailers for this film got me a little emotional, so I'm looking forward to this one. Also on the 19th, we get Him. Jordan Peele's name is all over the promotional materials for this movie, but he only produced it. It's directed by Justin Tipping. Tyreek Withers, who actually played college ball at Florida State, stars as a wannabe pro football star who attends a training camp run by Marlon Wayans and learns just what he'll have to give up in order to be the greatest. In a limited number of theaters on the 19th, we have The Lost Bus from director Paul Greengrass. Matthew McConaughey plays a school bus driver trying to evacuate a group of students and their teacher, played by America Ferrera, from the infamous 2018 Camp Fire in California. It will have a limited release on the 19th before streaming on Apple TV Plus starting October 3rd. Also on the 19th in select theaters, director Mike Figgis was given full access to the production of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis and now has a chronicle of the making of one of the most bizarre films of the modern era. The documentary is called Megadoc, and it is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I just can't wait to see what he captured. And on the 19th, in limited release, you can catch two films that I saw and enjoyed at Sundance earlier this year. One of them is called Plain Clothes, featuring fantastic performances from Tom Blythe as a closeted police officer and Russell Tovey as a potential undercover bus target. And there's also Predators, a documentary examining the effects and legacy of the Dateline NBC series To Catch a Predator, where Chris Hansen exposed men targeting underage girls. On September 24th, we have another MCU show on Disney+, Marvel's Zombies. The MCU is back in animated form with a 4-episode limited series taking on one of the classic alternate dimension tales from Marvel, where Earth's mightiest heroes have become the undead. MCU actors that are returning to voice their animated counterparts include Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel. On September 26th, we get the latest film from Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another. Warner Brothers is putting its box office winning streak on the line with P.T. Anderson's latest movie, which was granted a very generous budget. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a revolutionary trying to find his daughter while being targeted by a federal officer played by Sean Penn. Benicio del Toro, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, and Chase Infinity are among the movie's co-stars. I don't really know much about this one, but the same day as One Battle After Another, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, hits theaters. The popular kids show, which premiered on Netflix in 2021, gets its own movie when Gabby's Dollhouse ends up in the hands of Kristen Wiig and she refuses to return it. In limited release is Eleanor the Great. Scarlett Johansson directed this film starring June Squibb as an elderly woman who's forced to maintain a potentially ruinous lie. The movie didn't get great reviews coming out of the Cannes Film Festival this summer, but June Squibb has been pretty universally praised for her performance, so I think I'll probably still check this one out. On October 1st, we get an original movie on Amazon Prime Video called Play Dirty. Mark Wahlberg plays a thief out for revenge who gets roped into a big heist, and quite honestly, this looks like a pretty forgettable streaming movie, but Shane Black is directing it and co-wrote the script. It's his first movie since 2018's The Predator, so I thought it merited a mention. Lakeith Stanfield and Rosa Salazar co-star. On Friday, October 3rd, one of the most buzzed about movies of the festival circuit already hits theaters, The Smashing Machine. Dwayne Johnson is attracting legitimate awards buzz for his role as Mark Kerr in Benny Safdie's biopic of the UFC fighter. A24 is distributing, and this could be a breakout hit for them, leveraging Johnson's star power with the curiosity of him taking on such a dramatic role. Emily Blunt co-stars in the movie, and it could very well be an awards contender in multiple categories. The same day, though, we have more awards prestige with Anemone. Daniel Day-Lewis came out of retirement to co-write this film with his son, Ronan Day-Lewis, who's directing the movie. The legendary actor plays a man who's locked himself away from society until his brother, played by Sean Bean, shows up to mend their relationship. Also on October 3rd is a movie called Good Boy. IFC Films is releasing this horror movie, which is told from the perspective of a dog, and it was initially slated for a limited release, but IFC expanded its theater count to a wide release after the trailer's reception online and the movie's reception on the festival circuit. On October 10th, Disney is giving Tron a third shot at becoming a breakout film with Tron Ares, the follow-up to Tron Legacy, which stars Jared Leto as an AI soldier who's sent into the real world. Greta Lee, Evan Peters, Gillian Anderson, and Jeff Bridges are among the supporting cast. Also on October 10th, we get Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Now, this is an adaptation of the Broadway musical, not a remake of the film that won William Hurt an Oscar in the 80s or a direct adaptation of the original novel. When this movie premiered at Sundance, it was hyped as a potential awards vehicle for Jennifer Lopez, but its lead, Tonatia, who plays a political prisoner reminiscing about his favorite movie to fellow prisoner Diego Luna, has captured a lot of the advance buzz. Lopez plays the star of the fictional musical featured in the film, and the movie was directed by Bill Condon, who's already directed film adaptations of Dreamgirls and Beauty and the Beast, and co-wrote the screenplay for the Oscar-winning Chicago. The same day, we get the release of After the Hunt from director Luca Guadagnino, who is very prolific. His latest stars Julia Roberts as a university professor whose friend and colleague Andrew Garfield is accused of assault by a student, played by Io Debris. The prestige alone, I think, makes it worth noting on the list, though I am curious about what exactly this movie has to say. In a limited number of theaters on October 10th, we get Catherine Bigelow's latest film, A House of Dynamite. It hits Netflix on October 24th. The movie features an ensemble cast including Rebecca Ferguson, Idris Elba, Jared Harris, and Anthony Ramos, who all play government officials who have to decide what to do when a rogue nuclear missile is launched at the United States. This is a crowded release date because we also have If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Rose Byrne is getting a lot of buzz for her performance in this A24 release from writer-director Mary Bronstein. Byrne plays a single mother who's dealing with a complicated child and a life that is literally falling apart around her. And there's been a little buzz around the performance for Conan O'Brien, who plays her therapist. Finally, on October 10th, if you want to stay home, there's a new documentary called John Candy, I Like Me. Colin Hanks directed this documentary for Amazon Prime Video about the late, great John Candy, one of the most beloved and iconic comedy stars of his time, who I think was gone way too soon. An all-star group of friends and former collaborators sit down to tell Candy's story and remember his talent and the pressure that he felt to live up to his image. On October 15th, we get a limited theatrical release of Ballad of a Small Player, which is director Edward Berger's follow-up to Conclave. It stars Colin Farrell as a gambler desperate to turn his losing streak around, and after this very limited theatrical run, it will debut on Netflix on October 29th. On the same day, we get the premiere of It Was Just an Accident, which is Iranian director Jafar Panahi's film about a man who believes he's tracked down the person who tortured him in prison. It won the top prize, the Palme d'Or, at the Cannes Film Festival this summer, and naturally, Neon picked up distribution rights and will be giving it a big awards push to keep their Oscar-winning streak alive. On October 17th, we get the debut of Black Phone 2 in theaters. I was really skeptical about the idea of a sequel to The Black Phone, but the trailers, at least so far, make it look like Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill might have cracked an idea for what a second movie could be. I liked the first film, so I'm curious to see what this one has in store as Ethan Hawke's sadistic murderer returns to continue stalking his victims. Also on October 17th in theaters, we get Good Fortune. Aziz Ansari directs his first film starring Keanu Reeves as an angel who magically makes a wealthy man and his assistant switch places and is punished for that act by having to live on Earth. In addition to Reeves playing the angel, Aziz Ansari plays the assistant and Seth Rogen plays the wealthy guy. Director Richard Linklater has two films coming out this fall. The lower profile of the two is Blue Moon, which stars Ethan Hawke, there he is again, as lyricist Lorenz Hart, former partner of Richard Rodgers, who's contemplating his future in the wake of his former partner's huge success with the musical Oklahoma. This is mostly a bottle movie taking place in a bar, so I guess it's a bottle movie in more ways than one, so don't expect a large scale. And on October 17th, we get Guillermo del Toro's take on the Mary Shelley classic Frankenstein. It hits a very small number of theaters on the 17th, ahead of its debut on Netflix on November 7th. Oscar Isaac stars as the titular doctor, with Jacob Elordi as the monster, Mia Goth as Dr. Frankenstein's unrequited love, and Christoph Waltz as the man bankrolling the experiment. This seems like a great match of filmmaker and material, so I'm very curious to see what Guillermo del Toro has in store here. On October 24th, we were supposed to get the release of Mortal Kombat 2, but it was pushed kind of late in the game to summer 2026. However, there are still plenty of options for that date. First of all, we have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. The Boss gets a biopic from Scott Cooper, who made the film Crazy Heart, and it's about Bruce Springsteen's process writing the album Nebraska. Jeremy Allen White plays Springsteen, and Jeremy Strong plays his manager. Now, I come from a big Bruce Springsteen superfan household. I've seen him live 3 times. I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to bottle his very unique energy, but Jeremy Allen White is a great actor. Recently moved to October 24th is Shelby Oaks from fellow YouTube critic Chris Stuckman, who landed a distribution deal with Neon for his first film as a director. Not bad. It also has Mike Flanagan on board as executive producer. It's a supernatural horror movie about a woman looking for her missing sister. Likely in more limited release on the 24th is Bugonia. Emma Stone plays a CEO who's kidnapped by an obsessive Jesse Plemons in Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film. Like them or not, Lanthimos' movies are always interesting, and I'm hoping that this may finally be the big Jesse Plemons breakout that I think we've all been waiting for, or at least I have. Also on the 24th, we have Regretting You. Author Colleen Hoover's book, It Ends With Us, was a huge hit last year, and while that film has been engulfed in controversy, another one of her books is hitting the big screen. Allison Williams plays a mother grieving the loss of her husband while also trying to raise a teenage daughter of her own. McKenna Grace plays the daughter, and the movie also stars Dave Franco and Mason Thames. Hopefully, any behind-the-scenes drama that might have happened during the production of this movie will stay out of the spotlight this time. Anime fans are probably excited because on October 24th, we get the release of Chainsaw Man, the movie Res Arc. It's been nearly 3 years since the first season of Chainsaw Man wrapped up, so fans should be happy to hear that a movie continuing the story is hitting theaters. Quite frankly, I haven't seen Chainsaw Man or read the manga, but I've heard good things, so maybe I'll jump in before this movie comes out. On Sunday, October 26th, we get the debut episode of It, Welcome to Derry on HBO Max. This is a prequel series to the popular It movies from a few years ago, and Bill Skarsgård is returning as Pennywise as we see the kids who took on the killer clown during the reign of terror that preceded the 1980s set movies. On Halloween, October 31st, we get the debut in theaters, a small number of theaters, of Nouvelle Vague, the second Richard Linklater film of the fall, and it's a bit higher profile. Nouvelle Vague is a dramatization of the making of Jean-Luc Godard's landmark film Breathless, one of the most influential movies of all time. The movie is entirely in French, and as is Netflix standard, it will be in a small number of theaters before hitting the streaming service on November 14th. We still have a lot to cover as we dive into the rest of the year, but before we do, I want to thank my partner for this video, which is the Wednesday Season 2 official WoCast. Wednesday Season 2 has now wrapped up its run, and if you are interested about the show, if you want to do a deep dive into the mysteries of Wednesday Season 2, you can do that right now with the Wednesday Season 2 official WoCast. Join host Caitlin Riley along with her producer Thing, that's right, he's a very talented hand, as they sit down with all of the names that you know from the cast and crew. They will take a deep dive into every twist in the show, all the characters and their relationships. They'll unearth Adam's family lore, and they'll have answers to all of your burning questions, which you probably have a lot of now that the season's wrapped up. Guests on the show include Emma Myers, Joy Sunday, Hunter Doohan, Steve Buscemi, Fred Armisen, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and the Joanna Lumley. You'll also hear from show creators Al Goff and Miles Miller, and of course, Wednesday herself, Jenna Ortega. There are now 8 episodes available on Netflix, which means there are 8 episodes to break down, and you're going to learn more about Nevermore Academy and everything going on than you have before. The Wednesday Season 2 official WoCast is available in both audio and video form on todoom.com, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Heading over to November, on November 7th, we get the release of Predator Badlands. With Prey and Predator Killer of Killers, Dan Trachtenberg has almost single-handedly breathed new life into this franchise, and he looks to continue that process with the latest Predator film following a young Yautja warrior who hunts prey on the galaxy's most dangerous planet in order to prove himself. Elle Fanning plays an android from apparently the Alien universe, and this looks really cool. I mean, considering what Dan Trachtenberg has done with these movies, I'm excited for this one. A very different movie is also hitting theaters the same day. It's called Die, My Love, and it's from director Lynn Ramsey, who I think is a very good filmmaker. She doesn't make a lot of movies, and she returns with this look at a woman fighting her own mental health issues. Jennifer Lawrence plays the woman, and Robert Pattinson plays her husband. One of the producers is Martin Scorsese, so there is a lot of prestige attached to this one. And speaking of prestige, on the same date, we also get the release of Sentimental Value. There is big-time awards buzz around this film from Joachim Trier, the director of The Worst Person in the World. Renata Reinsve stars as one of the daughters of a famous film director, played by Stellan Skarsgård, whose strained relationship with him grows even more complicated when he decides to make a film about his family's past. Neon, of course, also has the rights to this one, so expect a big awards push. Lots of festival movies are hitting theaters right around this time because on the same date we have the release of Train Dreams. There was a lot of Sundance buzz around this film, starring Joel Edgerton as a railroad worker in the rapidly advancing America of the early 1900s. Felicity Jones, Carrie Condon, and William H. Macy co-star. It'll debut on Netflix November 21st after a 2-week limited run. On November 14th, I hope you like magic because Now You See Me, Now You Don't hits theaters. It's the third Now You See Me movie, and it's using the subtitle that the second Now You See Me movie should have used as its title. I've never really been into these movies, but they're popular, so we'll see what it does at the box office. The same day, we have The Running Man from director Edgar Wright, who adapts Stephen King's original book about a man in the not-so-distant future, starring in a life-or-death reality show. Glenn Powell takes what was the Arnold Schwarzenegger role as the contestant fighting for his life, with Josh Brolin as the game's big boss and Coleman Domingo as the host. Edgar Wright is a must-see for me, quite frankly, no matter what he does, and I love what he does with action. And it's really interesting that this movie is coming out this year because in the original 1982 book, The Running Man was set in the year 2025. On the same day, we get Keeper from director Osgood Perkins. It's his second film this year after The Monkey came out at the beginning of the year. Tatiana Maslany plays a woman left alone in a creepy cabin in the woods. Neon is distributing this one as well. Man, the publicity people at Neon are going to be working overtime this fall. In a limited number of theaters, we have the release of Jay Kelly. George Clooney plays an aging movie star, and Adam Sandler plays his longtime manager in the latest film from Noah Baumbach. Billy Crudup's supporting performance is getting a lot of attention in this one, and Laura Dern is also in the cast. Baumbach wrote the script with Emily Mortimer, and it will debut on Netflix December 5th. On November 21st, the Friday before Thanksgiving, we get one of the biggest releases of the year, Wicked for Good. John M. Chu's two-part adaptation of the massively successful Broadway musical already has a massively successful Part 1 in the books. This adaptation, basically of Act 2, has a tougher task ahead of it, so we'll see if the film adaptation can stick the landing as it weaves in even more elements from The Wizard of Oz. I am holding space that this is going to be a good finale for these movies. A movie that's getting a lot of awards talk and actually just premiered last night at the Toronto International Film Festival is Rental Family. Brendan Fraser is getting some serious awards heat along with other people in the cast of this film, which is from Japanese director Hikari. The movie's about an American in Japan who hires himself out to local families for various occasions. And following its recent premiere in Toronto, you can expect it to start making the awards rounds very soon. Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, the same day we have Sisu, Road to Revenge. The surprise cult action hit gets a sequel with our hero on the run from a revenge-seeking Russian played by Stephen Lang. I've actually heard that the first Sisu film was great. I never saw it, but maybe I could do a double feature. On November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving, which would be a Wednesday, we get another huge release, Zootopia 2. Nearly 10 years after the first Zootopia film became a billion-dollar hit, Disney delivers a sequel which finds Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde going undercover. Ke Huy Quan voices a critical snake character, and Quinta Brunson also joins the returning voice cast. And if this movie can tap into what Inside Out 2 delivered, this could very well be the smash hit of the holiday season. On a much smaller scale, we have the release of The Secret Agent. Wagner Moura won Best Actor at Cannes, and the movie also picked up the Best Director award, so it's already got some momentum. Moura stars as a man on the run in his own country in 1970s Brazil, and Brazilian cinema is on a hot streak here in the US. We'll see if The Secret Agent can keep it going. In a limited number of theaters over Thanksgiving, we have Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. The third Benoit Blanc detective story will not be in wide release, but it might be playing near you ahead of its release on Netflix December 12th. Daniel Craig plays the detective once again with a new ensemble cast that includes Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, and Josh O'Connor. And finally, on the day before Thanksgiving, we're going to get the first batch of episodes for the final season of Stranger Things, which is season 5. It's pretty much coinciding with the holidays, so I'll give you the release dates for the next 2 parts as we go forward. On Thanksgiving Day, probably in a limited number of theaters, we get another big buzzy awards movie, Hamnet, which is Chloe Zhao's latest film about the death of William and Agnes Shakespeare's son. It has debuted to rave reviews so far on the festival circuit, particularly for Jessie Buckley's performance. Paul Mescal stars as the Bard himself, and this one should be on your shortlist if you want to keep up with what's going to be talked about during awards season. On December 1st, we get the debut of Troll 2. Oh my God! Actually, no, it's not the Troll 2 that you might be thinking of. This is the sequel to one of Netflix's most successful international films of all time. A new troll is on the loose in Norway, I think. I haven't seen the first one, but I assume that there's going to be a second troll and that the trolls are going to fight each other. On December 5th, we get Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Josh Hutcherson is back to face off against killer animatronics in the sequel to one of the most popular video game adaptations of all time. I didn't love the first movie, but it was inarguably successful, so we'll see what happens with Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which will not be saddled with the day and date release on Peacock that the first film had. On December 12th, we get a movie called Ella McKay. Emma Mackey plays the title character, a young governor with a complicated family that includes her dad, Woody Harrelson, and her grandmother, Jamie Lee Curtis. The ensemble cast also includes Albert Brooks, Io Adebri, Julie Kavner, Kumail Nanjiani, and Rebecca Hall. This is writer-director James L. Brooks' first film in 15 years, and quite frankly, his body of work alone merits the film's inclusion on this list. On December 17th, thank goodness it's not 3 years between season 1 and season 2, we get the debut of Fallout season 2 on Amazon Prime Video, just in time for the holidays. And on December 19th, look out box office records because there's another Avatar film hitting theaters, Avatar, Fire, and Ash. When the box office needs a savior, look no further than James Cameron. Luckily, his third Avatar film is getting here a bit more quickly than his second, with Jake Sully and Neytiri dealing with the fallout from the events in the last film. The first two Avatar movies have grossed over $5 billion combined worldwide, so it's likely that audiences around the globe will be returning to Pandora once again. On the same day, we're getting the release of Is This Thing On?, which is Bradley Cooper's latest film as a director, taking place in the world of stand-up comedy, with Will Arnett starring as a new stand-up comedian who uses his personal problems to feed his material. Laura Dern plays his soon-to-be ex-wife, with Andra Day and Bradley Cooper also in the cast. Cooper co-wrote the film with Will Arnett and Mark Chappell. Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, on the same day, we get the SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants. Everyone's favorite animated ocean-dwelling sponge is back with another movie, this time in pursuit of the legendary Flying Dutchman, a pirate voiced by Mark Hamill. You know, nothing warms you up on a cold December day like a trip down to Bikini Bottom. On Christmas Day, December 25th, we get our second Safdie brother film of the season, Marty Supreme. Benny Safdie has the Smashing Machine, and Josh Safdie has Marty Supreme, the tale of an aspiring ping-pong superstar who's played by Timothée Chalamet. The cast also includes Gwyneth Paltrow, Fran Drescher, Tyler Okonma, Odessa Azayan, and Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. Okay. Next up is a movie I'm still not sure is actually happening. Apparently, Jack Black and Paul Rudd are remaking Anaconda, which was kind of a surprise announcement. Tandiwe Newton and Steve Zahn are also reportedly in the cast, but we don't really know much else about the film, other than that it is co-written and directed by Tom Gormican, whose last film was The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. As with that film, he also co-wrote Anaconda along with Kevin Etten, although I'm still not entirely convinced that this isn't just going to be an hour and a half of that one scene from Mac and Me. Also on December 25th, we get No Other Choice, the latest from South Korean filmmaker Park Chan-wook, whose last film, Decision to Leave, was on my year-end top 10, the year that it was released. Lee Byung-hun stars as a man who's laid off from his job and goes to extreme lengths to secure a new one, and this is near the top of my list right at the end of the year. Also on Christmas Day, we get Stranger Things Season 5 Part 2, and just under a week later, on December 31st, everything wraps up with Stranger Things Season 5 Part 3, both of those, of course, on Netflix. So that was a lot, and I thought that it might be useful at the end here to kind of recap everything that we talked about, especially because there are all these Netflix movies that have small releases but then come back and hit the service later. So starting back on September 12th, let's just do a quick rundown of the fall season, date by date, and what you might expect. So first of all, on September 12th, we have Downton Abbey, the grand finale, The Long Walk, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle, all hitting theaters, along with, by the way, re-releases of Toy Story and The Sound of Music. On September 19th, Him and A Big Bold Beautiful Journey hit theaters, along with more limited releases of The Lost Bus, Megadoc, Plain Clothes, and Predators. It should also be noted on September 19th that Apollo 13 is getting a re-release in IMAX. On September 24th, we have the debut of Marvel Zombies on Disney+. And then on September 26th, we have One Battle After Another, Gabby's Dollhouse the Movie, and Eleanor the Great all hitting theaters. On October 1st, Play Dirty, the latest from Shane Black, debuts on Amazon Prime Video. And on October 3rd, The Smashing Machine hits theaters, along with Anemone and Good Boy. The Lost Bus makes its debut on Apple TV Plus on October 3rd. We're also getting re-releases of both Avatar: The Way of Water and Casper on October 3rd. So if you love those movies and you want to see them again in theaters, mark that date down on your calendar. On October 10th, Tron Ares hits theaters, along with Kiss of the Spider-Woman, After the Hunt, A House of Dynamite, and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And the documentary John Candy, I Like Me, hits Amazon Prime Video. On October 15th, Ballad of a Small Player will hit a limited number of theaters, and It Was Just an Accident will begin its theatrical rollout. On October 17th, Black Phone 2, Good Fortune, and Blue Moon hit theaters, along with Frankenstein, which will be in a small number of theaters. On October 24th, it's a very busy day. We have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, Shelby Oaks, Begonia, Regretting You, and Chainsaw Man the movie all hitting theaters. Catherine Bigelow's latest, A House of Dynamite, will hit Netflix, and Paranorman is also getting a theatrical re-release just in time for Halloween. On October 26th, we have the premiere of It, Welcome to Derry on HBO Max. And on October 31st, Nouvelle Vague will get a limited release in theaters, and Back to the Future is also getting a re-release in theaters. On November 7th, Predator Badlands hits theaters, along with Die My Love, Sentimental Values, and Train Dreams, while Frankenstein makes its debut on Netflix. On November 14th, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, The Running Man, and Keeper hit theaters. Jay Kelly hits a limited number of theaters, and Nouvelle Vague makes its debut on Netflix. On November 21st, Wicked for Good will hit theaters ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, along with Rental Family and Sisu Road to Revenge. Train Dreams will make its debut on Netflix November 21st. On November 26th, which is the day before Thanksgiving, Zootopia 2 hits theaters along with The Secret Agent. Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery in a small number of theaters. And we get the debut of Stranger Things 5 Part 1 on Netflix. On November 27th, Hamnet will probably enter limited theatrical release. On December 1st, Troll 2 releases on Netflix. On December 5th, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 hits theaters, and Jay Kelly makes its debut on Netflix. On December 12th, Ella McKay opens in theaters, and Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, debuts on Netflix. On December 17th, Fallout Season 2 premieres on Amazon Prime Video. On December 19th, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Is This Thing On, and the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants all make their theatrical debuts. On Christmas Day, December 25th, we get Marty Supreme, Anaconda, and No Other Choice rolling out in theaters, while Stranger Things 5 Part 2 hits Netflix. And on New Year's Eve, December 31st, Stranger Things 5 Part 3 debuts on Netflix. And that's my look at the rest of the year in movies and streaming. Is there one of these projects that you're most excited about? Was there something I left off that you wish you'd seen? Let me know down in the comments below, and stay tuned right here because I'm going to be talking about a lot of these movies, reviewing a lot of these movies, and covering the awards season, which is really starting to ramp up. If you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up so you know when I put out a new video. But most of all, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.